This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for KX with Ken. And today we're trying something new on Ken's show, and that is we have sent the link out there and we have opened this up to the public because Ken is going to be talking about anxiety. And anxiety is something that I understand fully, and so does our first guest, Tracy Williams. So, Ken, tell us really, what is anxiety?
Well, basically, it's a thought. It's an unresolved thought. It is a thought, maybe a worry. Maybe it's a fear. It could be a combination of very different psychological phenomenon that go on in your head. What I wanted to start with is, well, how do you get it? And what, doesn't everybody have anxiety? Like, where's my keys? Am I going to be late? You're waiting for the bus and the bus doesn't come. And what do you feel? Well, I'm anxious, right?
Mhm.
But the bus comes, it goes away until you get stuck in traffic. Stuck in traffic, now you start to worry again. I wonder how long it's going to take. Now, it depends on where you're going. If you're going to meet a girlfriend on time, you can come a little bit late. But what if you were going to a plane and
Mm.
now you had traffic? Well, what if you were going to be the speaker at a convention? And well, what if you had a meeting in front of the judge? Now all of a sudden those things take on more meaning. It's not just that the bus isn't coming. My life is going to get wrecked because I didn't get there on time. So and then you start in your head to go through all these machinations. So let's see where it begins. I think because I'm a family guy and I did family therapy for 50 years, anxiety is taught. Now, before I say that, disclaimer, there are psychophysiological things that people have, nervous condition, nervous disorders, central nervous problems, et cetera,
Mm.
brain disorders. I'm not talking about really heavy duty body clinical, malfunction. Let's say you get a clean bill of health, you don't have any of those things. But you live in a family and the mother says, give me a call as soon as you get there. I'm going to worry. So here's a woman who has decided that she wants to live in apprehension, guilt, fear, anxiety, trauma, whatever, until she gets a phone call that relieves it.
Mhm.
Or you could say to her, everything's okay until you hear something different. Now, which family were you raised in? Were you raised in the family that said everything is okay? And if you get in any trouble or anything bad happens, I'll hear about it. Or you need to call me every step of the way, every particular journey out of sight. I'm nervous. So now, did you
Yeah.
have a mother like that?
Yeah. I'm that mother.
You're that. Well, we'll ask your kids how happy they are with that.
I'm sure they're not.
No, of course they're not, because you're teaching anxiety. So
Okay.
let's get away from that for a second. And I want to get back to number two. Like
That's good to know, though.
anything new. Families can teach that anything new is dangerous or difficult, such as traveling. Go to a place you don't know. Go to a neighborhood you don't know. Go to a restaurant you don't know. Go to an area of town you're not familiar with. People who only are comfortable in similar environments where they feel safe make others uncomfortable about the idea of going there. Like if I'm going to take you to a neighborhood that I think is okay, but you don't, now I'm involved in your anxiety because now I'm trying to see what you're thinking and what's going to make you comfortable. And then I get nervous because I'm trying to get you're nervous. And before you know it, you got a whole group that has its spreads. Now, what about food? Think food can cause anxiety? Well, there's comfort foods. There's foods that we go to when you're feeling like you need something to make you feel calmer or make you, if people are traveling, they want to eat something that they normally eat at home. And traveling could be from here, you're in a neighborhood and it's a kosher neighborhood and you never ate kosher food before. Well, what do you do? Or it's an Italian only neighborhood and you hate pasta. Or you're in a Chinese and you never ate with chopsticks. Those kind of decisions and places can make you feel nervous. Depending on how nervous will decide if you go there again. So if people went and had a bad experience in a neighborhood or with a food or something that upset them, they would then avoid it. They would then teach that to somebody else who wants to go there. So, oh, you got to watch it. Okay, got the idea? What about money?
Oh, money makes everybody anxious.
Not everybody. Not everybody. People with lots of it sometimes don't even think about it.
True.
It's not part of life, just what things cost. But in some families, like I grew up in a post-depression family. They had it, the depression came along, they lost it. Now, although it's World War II and there's prosperity and it's now in the 50s and it's the new suburbia, they're still back in the 20s when they lost it. So now you never have enough acorns in the shelf. You know, there's every time you spend something, it leads to, oh my God, we're going to not have any money. And so there are families that are very money oriented and very anxiety oriented about spending anything. Everything comes down to what it costs. And I think that's tragic because you lose the quality of life. You don't, you know, you have to spend money to live well. You have to live, to do what you want to do, it costs. So, I mean, the issue is make more, you know, but.
Not always so easy.
Huh?
I said it's
Not
not
easy.
always so easy.
Sorry, my arm's getting tired.
Okay.
What about the philosophical nightmares? Now, if you're raised in the kind of Jewish family that I was, there's always somebody that says, oh, today's good, but tomorrow. Don't. If you're feeling good, watch out. Something bad's going to happen. Today's a good day. You're making money today, but tomorrow you could lose your job. So there's always this fear that whatever you have is going to be taken. It's going to go away. The sunny day is not really sunny. It's just they haven't seen the clouds yet. And so people with that kind of anxiety are always bringing the clouds. No matter what your event is, or no matter what is going on, they will bring an anxiety, fear, notice to the party. And then that becomes contagious. You then learn to think that way. And now you can't enjoy anything the way you used to enjoy it because you got on your shoulder, you got the nervous worrier.
Right.
All right. So let's break it down and talk about anxiety in its stages. You know, from what we talk about is waiting for the bus. That's everybody has that. Everybody has that. You know, where's my shoes? Oh, I washed it yesterday. I put it right here. Where is it? I'm looking for the book. I can't find it. Oh, it's 2 minutes. I have to find all my stuff. That's normal everyday anxiety. When it starts to get more than that, it starts to get a little physical. And you can start to sweat, or you start to breathe harder. Or maybe your blood pressure goes up a little bit, or your heart starts thumping, or you have an inability to concentrate. Your mind starts to go quickly into other places.
Mhm.
Those are kind of moderate anxieties. I think as the problem gets worse, we see more and more of that. Now, anxiety is on a continuum from very little where you just about notice it to say, "Oh my God, I'm nervous today." And people have a lot of different words for nervous. Stress is a big word
Sure.
that I saw in the office for years. People go, "Oh, I'm stressed." Well, what stresses you out? Everything. Not everything. Not everything should stress you out. I mean, there were things that should. So you just got off the phone. He says, "Listen, I got the result of your blood work." Now, what's the first thing you're going to think of, right? I got cancer, right? Most people will go right to the worst possible idea to brace themselves for what's coming. So it's called anticipatory anxiety. You go to the worst outcome. And now when you hear, well, listen, it's only a pimple. Oh, thank God. Next, we have when you start to get into moderate anxiety and the physical stuff takes over, you start to get lightheaded. You actually, if you really get it, you can move to stage 3 pretty quickly. If you don't do the breathing and if you start doing shallow breathing and you can hyperventilate, and before you know it, you're on the ground and people are asking you how you're doing.
Uh,
But most people recognize that and have some kind of intermediate thing that they do. Now, not all these intermediate self-help things are good. You know, if uh, cake doodles are your thing, you're going to be 400 pounds because every time you get nervous, you're eating something bad for you because that makes you feel good. The side effect is you're not going to feel so good.
Right.
Well, what if I just need a drink? I come home, I had a rough day. I need a drink. Well, if you need, what do you do if you have a tougher day than you had yesterday? Well, yeah, I need 2 drinks, and then 3 drinks, and then before you know it, you're down the road where every anxiety-provoking experience leads to a drink. These are not good. When you start to get to severe anxiety, these are situations that are caused by events outside of your control. Um, you lose your job, you lose your passport, um, somebody dies,
Mhm.
um, there's a massive accident, there's a mass shooting, and you read about it or you see about it. It gives people a sense of impending doom, and the worst part of it is you can't control it. It's nothing that you can do that makes the situation better. So there is this internal ping pong in your head back and forth about what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And when the anxiety increases like that, the cognitive functioning goes down. Your ability to think clearly, logically, and in perspective is altered. A lot of times when people come in with severe anxiety, I used to see it in the emergency room. Somebody will come in on a stretcher saying, "I'm dying." You know,
Mhm.
well, they had a panic attack. There's nothing wrong with their heart, and you tell them there's nothing wrong with their heart, and they look at you like, "Can't be. It's going crazy." Well, your head is making your heart go crazy. So let's talk to you about what you're worried about and what your concerns about. And before you know it, if you can get them to start to breathe normally and to get back, as their breaths come into normal rhythm, so does their brain and so does their thoughts. Oh, that was weird, Doc. Yeah, it's weird, you know? And all of a sudden they're back. They've recovered from that phase. Now, that's what it's like with anxiety. You have momentary losses of control and fear, and then you gather yourself, it comes back. But you can have anxiety spikes. Things can trigger it. Visual things, things you smell, things you see, things that remind your memory of the trauma that you're reacting to, and you can have it all over again. That's why when the most severe cases, when you get past phobias and you get into panic disorders and post-traumatic stress disorder, here's a bucket load of deep-seated anxiety because you experienced some kind of trauma. You watch somebody get killed. You watch somebody get mugged. You watch somebody die. Um, you were near missing an accident. You survived the plane crash. Those kinds of things would be initially blocked. Your brain is smart enough that they block everything that you don't remember it, but then you can have night sweats, traumas, nightmares, where these kind of things break into the open. So in post-traumatic stress, when you're trying to go back to living your normal life, you're very vulnerable because of all our integrated sensory systems, sights, sounds, smells, noises, all those things can trigger the memory, which then has got this bucket of deep anxiety that's locked inside and out it comes. And that's what people call a panic attack. Now, the panic attacks are dangerous. They're not just something that you can easily deal with depending on where you are. There have been people who have had, it's called fight or flight. Your instinct is to fight against it or run the hell away. And if you have a flight response, there's no barrier that'll stop you. I have known kids who have jumped out windows in order to get out of a fight in the family. They just couldn't stand it, and they had to get out of there, and they jumped out, and they realized they were on the third floor and not the first.
Oh, wow.
But you don't think that you're on the third floor when you do. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. And you've seen it in many, many movies.
Right.
They depict somebody who is basically in fight flight, and nothing will help. So you have mild, moderate, and severe. And the severe is jittery behavior and even anger. People who are anxious don't want to hear anything that's not in their chain of thought. If you interrupt their chain of thought, they get angry. If you try to give them a suggestion that's ahead of time before they're in recovery, their response is anger. If I can't solve this problem and you're trying to solve it for me or with me, and I'm not yet ready to hear it because I'm still hyperventilating, I will get angry. And you see many times people with poor concentration, especially in elderly. You try to read them something or try to tell them something, and they give up. I can't. They have a response like that. That's a severe anxiety spike. They get overwhelmed by having to concentrate where they have difficulty concentrating because it requires different cognitive abilities that are weakening. The synapses, the connections to their memory, to their speech, to other things are diminished. And therefore, the only thing left is to get out of there. And their getting out of there is to shut you down. So if you go to nursing homes and you see that's every day at a nursing home, every day the staff trying to talk to someone to tell them, Margaret, all I'm trying to do is give you some water for your pill, is the response.
Mhm.
And what
Wow.
is that? That's anxiety. Now, when anxiety starts to get past the point of your own self-control, that's when you start to have dysfunction. You start, let's say you have to go to a social event and your anxiety is at such a level that you can't go. So you don't go to the event as a way of dealing with your anxiety. In other words, you've given up on the fact that you can solve your own anxiety. So now you're going to manipulate the external world and put things that make you nervous away. Before you know it, there's no world out there because you've put everything that could potentially make you nervous away. When I started out today, I said, I think there's a belief system that starts it, which is learned in the family. And psychologically, what if you're an unsure person? What if you have insecurities? What if you have doubts? What if you have self-image problems? You don't like the way you look. What if you're insecure about your abilities? What if you're insecure about your knowledge or your intelligence or your ability to solve problems? Anytime you're put in a maze of problem solving, you are going to get anxious. And what you're going to do is you're going to avoid those situations. Or you're going to try to hide it. What if you're at work? And now you're doubting yourself, you're upset about the task you're being, you don't think you can do it, and whatever. You'll start to lie, you'll start to make excuses, you'll start to push that. You can get fired. Basically, you can lose your job because of anxiety. What if the normal situations of every day you get in front of, you go into a restaurant and you sit down at a meal and you're the only person, you don't have anybody to eat with today. Some people get very nervous about eating in public. They're self-conscious. What are they self-conscious about? Well, it's called projection. You project onto everybody your insecurities as if they see them. They know you're going to slurp your soup. You know, they know you weigh too much, but you're eating potatoes, and you're worried that they're going to see you eating potatoes. Although you know you shouldn't be eating potatoes, but you really like potatoes. You know, so there's nobody around. I'm going to eat some potatoes. But now the whole restaurant is there, and they're all seeing you eat your potatoes, and you start to sweat. You start to get uncomfortable. So maybe you don't go out the next time alone to eat in a restaurant. You stay home. There are many, many things that are connected with this overwhelming anxiety. You see people that freeze, they get dazed, like they're on tilt and they just have this blank stare. Well, that's a frozen anxiety state. It's like, you know, like when the camera freezes and you got a thing. Well, that's how far they got before it all hit home. And what it is, it's like try to picture a socket, and you plug one plug in, and then you put in, and then you plug two of them in. And you put, when you hit 5, and that's what you got. So internally, we each have a different level of our anxiety freeze point, where some of us have a higher level we can tolerate. Some people do better in high anxious situations. I'm one of those. I've worked in an emergency room, in a psych emergency room, and when everything hit the fan, somebody had to be calm. Somebody had to know what to do and handle it. I love that kind of situation because it gets your adrenaline up and you start thinking clearly. But if you've got experience with that kind of stuff, it's like they would say to me, "What all this going on? You look so like you're having an ice cream." I said, but it doesn't bother me. People are different. I used to bring students down there, and they would get to the door of the emergency room, and they'd have a freeze. You know, like, come on, kids, come on. This is where the work is. You know, we got to. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Every fear in the world about what was going to happen. Somebody's going to come in and shoot them. There's going to see blood on the floor. Somebody's going to drop dead. Somebody's going to see the crash cart coming. You know, there's all kinds of things. The cops, everybody, you know, you got all kinds of trauma going on in the emergency room. Now, how do you process that? If you compartmentalize it and say, well, I'm not him. I'm only going to worry about things that happen to me, which is what I would say to them. All you have to do is watch your breathing. Just keep breathing no matter what you see, no matter what happens. Keep breathing normally. You're okay. And every minute, every 2 minutes, ask yourself if you're okay. And if you're okay, then where you are is okay. Then you can do the next step and you're okay. So it's like desensitization to imagined trauma or imagined anxiety. We have enough to deal with real anxiety. We don't have to add more. And most people are adding more. They're making things worse than they actually are. So when you're getting into that's clinical anxiety. When you lose focus and concentration, that's when you walk into doors. That's when you're driving your car and you didn't see the red light. Or that's when somebody stopped in front of you and you banged into them because you had a momentary, you were somewhere else. Those are all anxiety interferences. They stop the cognitive awareness of where you are and what you're doing. You really have to have an automatic pilot operating all the time to deal with life when you're an anxious person, because you can hurt yourself. You won't realize that you just stepped down a step, or you went into the street from the curb, or you didn't see that there was no gravel there, or you're not paying attention because you're distracted. So we're coming down to an ability to cope, and that depends on who you think you are. And so much of anxiety patients that I treated in the office turned out to be a self-esteem issue, where you learn about projection, and really what your fear is isn't their view of you. They have an independent view of you. It's not your view of you, and you're not accurate when I see a wagging tail.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
The wagging tail. That's always a good sign, right?
Yeah.
Where was I?
Sorry.
The wagging tail got me. I forgot where I was.
So I have a question for
With driving and distractions and stuff like that. Go ahead.
so the question I have for you, it appears to me, and all the podcasting I've done in the last 5 years, that women tend to at least openly suffer from anxiety more than men. Is that a real concept, or am I just making assumptions based on the people I've talked to?
No, I think that's a generally accepted phenomenon. That women experience lower levels of anxieties before men do, and they experience higher levels of anxieties than men do. Men have more mechanisms that are in place. Men will go to the bottom line. What do I got to do? Tell me what I got to do, doc. I don't want to know how I feel. I want to know why I feel that way. Tell me what I got to do to stop feeling that way. And that's a very male orientation to anxiety and to the world. You put men in a group. All right, quit the bullshit. Let's get to the problem. And women will talk all day and discuss it for more, but you don't have to agree. You just have to be heard. And there's no real decision for a group to solve an anxiety problem. That's part of life. And so I think you're correct, is that women do have more anxiety. I think a lot of it is because of reality. They're more vulnerable out in the world. They're not as big, not as strong. There's a lot of dangerous men out in the world, and women learn to protect themselves because they have to, and that brings anxiety. They see danger in places that men don't see.
Now, what about a woman such as Tracy? And that's one of the reasons I wanted her on here. Um, she is the first person anybody's going to go to. She's everybody's friend. You try to help everybody. And a lot of times you lose not helping yourself. Am I correct? So how do we help somebody like Tracy not take on the anxieties of everybody else and, you know, bring herself down, even though she's always smiling and we never know when she's
Well, let's ask her.
okay.
Why do you like that? What's good about that?
What's good about helping?
Yeah.
I like helping people. It does make me happy. And I think a lot of people over the years, I've lived in the same town for a long time. Everybody comes to me because they know it's not going to go any further if they need to talk to somebody. So I have a lot of people's secrets up in my
So
I don't know.
you're an unlicensed therapist.
Basically, yeah. I always said I should have been a therapist.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that's the role you've chosen.
Yes. I like
So
helping.
what's the downside?
The downside is I don't have a lot of time to do other things because I'm always helping other people.
Well, who makes that choice?
I do. So I need to say no, and I
You just
know
solved
I
your
do.
problem. You just solved your problem if you would listen.
Right.
Right?
It's hard because then I feel guilty for not helping somebody that needs help.
Well, that's a different problem.
Yeah.
That's boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. I need them. I've been told that.
Yeah, we all need them. It's not just you. Everybody needs boundaries. I mean, I was a helper my whole life, but I learned, no, I'm off duty.
Yeah,
Call me tomorrow. I'll make an appointment. I'll see you tomorrow. You can't have an endless open mic.
that's true.
You, and that's what, I mean, therapists get trained on boundaries. Because
Yeah,
if you open the door and you don't know how to close it, you're going to be one of your patients.
right. Right.
You're going to need somebody to talk to because you don't have any boundaries to be able to say, office hours are 9 to 5, and
Right.
call me during office hours. I'll be glad to help you. But other than that, I got my own life. I got my kids. I got to go shopping. I got to get my hair done. I got to take a shower.
Mhm.
I got to live life. And I
Yeah.
need that time for me. And plus, I'm going away next week. So you'll have to make it while I'm away.
Yeah. True. I just
So
thought
it's
that would
it's
be
a
a good
good thing
friend.
with a hook. We call that a hook. It's a good thing that you have a self-concept that feeds you because you're a helper and you like that about yourself. But without proper boundaries and with inappropriate guilt, you can make it a bad thing.
Yeah. My biggest anxious time though has nothing to do with that. And I've talked to Karen before where I'm driving on I have anxiety driving. It used to be just on the freeway. I would actually have the fight or flight where I started thinking, okay, now I can't breathe. Now I'm sweating, clammy, I'm gonna pass out. So I'd pull
Right.
over on
Right?
the freeway.
Stage two signs already, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
You're already at moderate when you're in that. So go
Mhm.
ahead.
So now it's become at traffic lights, certain lights I'm avoiding because I know I've had that feeling there. And
So all the things I talked about are true for you.
yeah,
Once you have that level of anxiety and you don't think you can control it yourself, you start externalizing it and controlling the world around you. You start
yes,
going
exactly.
down different roads, you start doing all kinds of crazy stuff in order to
Mhm.
deal with your anxiety.
Yeah.
I would
And
suggest strongly you not do that because
okay. And I've noticed
it
if
will
I
only
call
grow.
somebody,
It will grow.
okay,
If you feed it, it will grow.
okay. Yeah, it started on the freeway when my daughters had several brain surgeries and I was driving. I think I've kind of made the freeway related to we had to go to Cleveland Clinic and we're in Talmadge. So I think that I related that panic of driving her when there's something wrong to driving on the freeway. So I know,
Absolutely correct.
yeah, I know what I
It's called
relate
associative
to.
thinking. You have an associative thought to the trauma and worry about the brain surgery, which then
Mhm.
has particles and can connect to other objects if you let them.
Okay. How do you stop it?
If you don't let them.
Okay.
And remember what Henny Youngman said, hey, it hurts when I do this. Don't do
Don't
that.
do it.
You
Okay.
have to learn, that you're more in control than you really think you are.
Okay.
Because you have all these mechanisms within you if you took the time to use them.
Okay.
There's things called thought challenge. Like if you have a fear about riding on the highway, it has nothing to do with driving the car, because you're able to drive the car. You are driving the car. So what's it really about? It's driving to something unknown, something out there, a generalized anxiety concept, which then once you feel that, it can attach itself to, ooh, that truck. So now every time you see a truck like that, it reminds you and bing, 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 3, 4, 5 different thoughts. Before you know it, you're overwhelmed. The
Yeah, my
idea,
worst, I'm afraid to faint while driving.
so breathe.
So that's what,
If you breathe properly, you won't faint.
okay.
First things first. Get air into the brain, and do that by deep, nice, calm, relaxed, easy breathing. It's the best cure for anxiety. It's quite cheap. You don't have to go to a pharmacy. You can do it anywhere you are. But you can learn to control your own spikes, which is what we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
by number one, challenging the thought. Like, what am I afraid of right now? When you're in that car and you're having that thought, what in your immediate world are you afraid of?
Yeah. Usually for me, it's a thought that puts me there. It's nothing in my immediate world that does.
So
It's
your immediate world is safe.
yes.
So
It's
that's reassuring then. The fact that you're driving and you're on the highway, nothing's happening to you because
right.
you have your foot on the gas and the pedal and the wheel. So you're controlling where you are and how safe you are. That's your thought. I'm fine in this car as long as I'm alert and breathing and driving the car.
I've had
Now,
it to the point where I don't even like, I feel like, oh my God, I can't breathe, but I know I'm breathing.
that's good. You're not breathing properly.
Okay.
You're shallow breathing at that point. You're really not breathing properly because
Okay.
that's the thought. It's the reverse of it. You know you're not breathing well. That's why you're afraid you're going to pass out. Because if you were calm and comfortable, you wouldn't have a thought about passing out.
No.
So it's already, it's in process is what I'm telling you when you have that awareness. So number one is you have to control your environment. You're safe, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm in my car. If I have a interruptive thought, well, can I do anything about that?
Yeah, I think you
What could
could.
you do? What could
I'm
you
sorry.
do?
When the thought comes through, you gotta push it away. And I was told to count my fingers or count 5 things, count my fingers or count
Just,
5
just,
things.
just say not now.
Okay. That's easier.
Not now. I'm not saying the thought's bad. I'm not saying it doesn't have validity, but not now.
Okay.
Right now I'm driving. I'm going to think about something else.
Yeah.
Mood changers are right there in front of you. Yeah, if you're a music person, and we all are, change the music or put on the music. It will take you, get into the song. If you have a series of songs that give you good feelings and good memories and whatever, make a file list, throw it on your phone, put it in your car, use that. When you're driving, put on your favorite comfortable music and you won't let the thoughts come in. Because
Right.
if you say, no, I'm listening to the music, sorry. And keep your focus on the music and your hands in the wheel. There are things that you can do that are so simple, but people don't recognize that they really can control anxiety and deal with it at its core, where the thought begins, by not permitting it to enter the consciousness. You can knock it out. And if it does, you can have, when you're home and you're safe and you're comfortable, you can have a solution. Well,
Okay.
what if I have this worry about brain surgery? Well, what are the outcomes? There's
Well, she's
possible
here.
outcomes. Huh?
She's amazing, doing well. So I just have to remember that.
So
You
what
know,
am I worried about?
Ken, at one time I shared with you my anxiety of driving and driving across
Bridge.
bridges. And you gave me such a fantastic thing to do. That is, when I'm going across the bridge, focus on the license plate of the car in front of me. Well, that was going very, very well for a while. But a couple weeks ago, I was going across the bridge and there was no license plate in front of me. But I took your advice and I looked at the front of my car. Didn't look sideways, just concentrated on the front of my car. And next thing I knew, I was on the other side of the bridge. Didn't even
Absolutely.
realize I had crossed over. And
Yeah.
so what I got from that was that as long as I had that straight focus,
Right.
I'm okay. It's when I allowed my eyes to dart around that I
Right.
was causing my own problems.
We all are.
Yeah.
Anxiety patients cause their own problems. They do. They learned it. They learned it somehow because of less than great parenting. And then they didn't develop the skill base to deal with it because anxiety goes away.
Mhm.
It's just a thought. With if it stays inside and there's no solution, it bounces around. So the idea is come up with the solution. Then when the thought comes at an inappropriate time, you say, I have that. That's filed in the solutions in the drawer. When I get home, I'm going to look at it. I have all the solutions to my problem. I sat down one day and thought about every problem I had and what's the possible solution. And I wrote the solution down on a piece of paper. I headed to the problem, wrote the solution down, and I put it in an envelope and I put it in the drawer in the file cabinet. So now when I'm away and if I forgot about it, I'll say, well, I won't think about that now because I have the solution at home. When I get home tonight, I'm going to go to my solution. And you do that a couple times, you will learn that you don't have to let anxiety control where you are. That you're in control of where you are. And if you're not, then you're going to have all the things we talk about. It's going to go from mild to moderate, then it's going to go to external. Before you know it, you're going to be eliminating your life. We haven't even talked about the minor anxiety medications that are out there. I mean, everybody knows about Valium and Librium and Xanax and all that stuff and Ativan. You know, they're situational drugs for once you no longer feel you can control yourself, that's when those medications help. I'm not a great believer in that because I think that's a short-term solution for a problem that you could solve on your own. And so anxiety is something that is well within your own abilities if you take the time to remember a lot of the basics. Thought challenge, thought blocking, breathing, and concentration on where you are. Create a safety bubble around yourself. Even if you're in a bad neighborhood, I'm still okay. I'm thinking of you, and I still got eyes, and I don't see any danger. I'll let myself know when I see danger, but I'm not going to anticipate danger. You know, it's like the guy walking down the street who's looking in the gutter and saying, boy, everything's dirty. You know, and you didn't look up and see that the sun's out and there's kites flying, you know.
Right.
So it's your perspective on where you are. And
Okay.
the one thing I also taught was this whole idea of a Gestalt idea. that the world is a whole big field. And the more you can extrapolate back out of it, the more your problem becomes tiny. And the more you can see things from a wider point of view, that, it's like you can't tell if it's an elephant if you're up against its leg.
Yeah.
You're looking right at it. You got to back up a little bit to see if it's an elephant. You got to back way back over here to see if it's a baby elephant, a big elephant, or if it's just a little tiny elephant. So sometimes we imagine a problem is a lot more catastrophic than it is. And we can, with the perspective, you can say, oh, this is just a bump in the road. It's not a blockade.
I
So
love it.
I think that's probably it for today.
Well, I want to thank Tracy for joining us. Tracy has a show herself on New Cleveland Radio called Tracing Your Steps with Tracy. And we talk about everyday life. And that's why I wanted you on here, because I know we both have a lot of anxiety that I know
Tracy?
sometimes I create my own.
We all do.
And I just thought, what a great way for us to get just a little.
Tracy, I want you to try some of those things we talked about today.
Absolutely. That's a whole.
I want to let me know how you did. What
Okay.
if other problems came up, or you started to feel more in control and your anxiety levels went down? I'd really like to know how you progress with this.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because sometimes you feel kind of alone with it, and you've given me some tips to work through that I haven't heard. So
Well,
Good.
very much appreciated.
want to thank you both, and we'll be back again. And
I got one before we go,
sure.
Karen. I got one more thing to say to you, Tracy.
Yeah.
You ever fly on a plane?
Yes.
What do they say about the masks that drop down?
You put it on yourself before you help somebody else.
Thank you.
That's
Use
very
that.
smart. Yeah.
Use that.
Okay.
There's a reason why they say that. Because you'll be a better helper if you take care of you first.
It's
not
true.
self-
Fill,
It's not
fill your cup up first.
smart. No, it's smart.
Okay.
Well, have a great day, everybody. We'll be
Okay,
back.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Okay, adios, amigos.